The fluorescent lights of the emergency room had been burning into Rebecca's eyes for the past 4 hours. She sat there, rocking her baby daughter back and forth, trying to keep the little one calm while they waited for the doctor to come back with the discharge papers. Mia was only 16 months old, and this was the 3rd time this month they'd ended up here. The fever had spiked so suddenly tonight that Rebecca had panicked and called for a rideshare to rush them to the hospital. Now, finally, they had answers. Ear infection. The doctor had prescribed antibiotics and told her to keep Mia hydrated and rested. Simple enough. Except nothing felt simple when you were doing it alone. Rebecca's body ached from exhaustion. She hadn't slept properly in 2 days, not since Mia first started showing signs of being unwell. The automatic doors slid open, letting in a gust of cold night air. Rebecca wrapped Mia tighter in her blanket and headed outside. The parking lot was nearly empty at this hour. She fumbled with her phone, trying to balance Mia on her hip while checking the rideshare app. The car should be here any minute now. Black sedan. License plate. She squinted at the screen, but her tired eyes couldn't quite focus on the numbers. A black luxury car pulled up right in front of her. Thank goodness. Rebecca didn't even think twice. She just needed to get her baby home and into bed. She yanked open the back door and climbed inside, immediately reaching for the seatbelt to secure Mia's portable car seat. "Please, can we hurry? My daughter really needs to rest," she said, her voice cracking with exhaustion. She didn't even look up at the driver, too focused on getting Mia settled. The car was completely silent for a moment. Too silent. Then she heard a man's voice, confused and sharp. "Excuse me, but who are you?" Rebecca's head snapped up. The man behind the wheel was definitely not her rideshare driver. He was wearing an expensive suit, the kind you see in magazine advertisements. His dark hair was perfectly styled, and his expression showed complete shock. This wasn't her car. This wasn't her driver. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. "I'm so sorry, I thought you were my ride. I'll get out right now," Rebecca stammered, already reaching for the door handle. But just as she did, Mia started crying. Not the gentle whimper she'd been doing all evening, but a full-blown, fever-induced wail that echoed through the car. Rebecca's hands shook as she tried to soothe her daughter while simultaneously gathering their things. The diaper bag had spilled and baby items were scattered across the leather seat. A pacifier rolled onto the floor. Mia's screams got louder, and Rebecca felt tears starting to form in her own eyes. This was a disaster. She'd just climbed into a stranger's car, and now her sick baby was having a meltdown. I'm so sorry," she kept repeating, trying to unhook the car seat with trembling fingers. "I didn't mean to. I thought you were my driver. The app said a black car, and I wasn't paying attention, and she's sick. And I'm just so tired." The man turned fully in his seat now, and Rebecca noticed his expression had changed. The initial shock was still there, but something else had crept in. He was looking at Mia, at her red, tear-streaked face, at the hospital bracelet still on her tiny wrist. "Wait," he said, and his voice was different now. Calmer. "Just wait a moment." Rebecca froze, one hand on the door handle, the other trying to comfort Mia. She didn't know what to expect. Would he call the police? Would he yell at her? She deserved it, honestly. Who just climbs into a random stranger's car without checking? The man ran a hand through his hair and let out a long breath. "Where do you need to go?" Rebecca blinked. "What?" "Your daughter is sick. You just came from the hospital." "Where do you live?" I can't ask you to." Rebecca started, but the man was already adjusting his rearview mirror. "You already did ask." Unintentionally, but still. "Where to?" Rebecca's mind was spinning. This made no sense. Why would a complete stranger, whose car she'd just invaded, offer to drive her home? She should say no. She should get out right now and wait for her actual ride. But Mia was screaming and Rebecca was so tired, and this man's eyes looked kind despite the awkward situation. "Maple Street," she heard herself say. "The apartment complex near the old library. But really, you don't have to—" The car was already moving. Rebecca sat back stunned, still bouncing Mia gently on her lap. The baby's cries started to quiet down, probably from sheer exhaustion. The man drove carefully, not too fast, checking his mirrors constantly. He reached over and adjusted the air conditioning. "Is it too cold back there for her?" he asked. "No, it's fine. Thank you." Rebecca couldn't believe this was happening. "I really am sorry about this. I don't usually just jump into random cars. I'm not that irresponsible, I promise." I'm just really tired, and when I saw a black car, I assumed. It's okay, the man said, and he actually sounded like he meant it. What's wrong with her? Your daughter, I mean, if you don't mind me asking. Ear infection. The doctor said it's a bad one. She's been in so much pain. Rebecca stroked Mia's soft hair. The baby's eyes were starting to droop now, exhaustion finally taking over. The man nodded. I remember those. They're rough at that age. Something about the way he said it made Rebecca curious. You have kids? There was a pause. A daughter. She's older now. They drove in silence for a few minutes. Rebecca watched the city lights blur past the window. She should feel more afraid, she thought. She was in a car with a complete stranger, with her baby, but somehow she didn't feel scared. There was something about this man's calm demeanor, the gentle way he drove, the genuine concern in his voice when he asked about Mia. There's water in the compartment next to you, he said suddenly, and some tissues if you need them. Rebecca did need them. She realized her own face was damp with tears she didn't remember crying. Thank you, she whispered, pulling out a tissue. She took a sip of water, her throat dry from stress and exhaustion. The man made a phone call, speaking quietly. Hi, yes, I need to reschedule the 7 a.m. meeting. Push everything back by an hour. Something came up. He paused. No, nothing wrong. Just helping someone, thanks. Rebecca felt guilt wash over her. You didn't have to do that. I've already messed up your evening enough. It's fine, he said simply. Some things are more important than meetings. 20 minutes later, they pulled up in front of Rebecca's building. It looked shabbier than usual, she thought, seeing it through a stranger's eyes. The paint was peeling on the front door, and one of the hallway lights was flickering. This was worlds away from wherever this man probably lived. Rebecca gathered their things, trying to organize the chaos of the diaper bag. The man got out of the car and came around to her side. Before she could protest, he was helping her with the bags, carrying the heavy diaper bag and Mia's portable car seat base. Which floor? He asked. Third. But I can manage from here, really. He was already walking toward the building entrance. Rebecca had no choice but to follow, Mia drowsy in her arms. They climbed the stairs together in silence. At her door, Rebecca fumbled for her keys, trying to manage everything while holding Mia. The man set down the bags and waited patiently. When she finally got the door open, he handed her the diaper bag. For the first time, Rebecca got a good look at his face in the hallway light. There was something familiar about him, but she couldn't place it. Maybe he just had one of those faces. Thank you, she said, meaning it more than she'd ever meant anything. I don't know why you helped me, but thank you. You didn't have to be so kind. The man gave a small smile. Take care of your daughter. She's lucky to have a mom who cares so much. Then he was gone, his footsteps echoing down the stairwell. Rebecca stood in her doorway, holding Mia close, watching until she heard the building door close below. She looked down at her sleeping baby, then back at the empty hallway. What had just happened? Who was that man? And why did she feel like her life had just changed in some way she couldn't quite understand yet? The next morning came too quickly. Rebecca woke up on the couch, still in yesterday's clothes, with Mia sleeping peacefully on her chest. Sunlight was streaming through the thin curtains, and for a moment, she thought last night had been some kind of fever dream. But no, there was the hospital discharge paperwork on the coffee table, and Mia's new antibiotic prescription sitting next to it. And there was the memory of that strange, kind man who'd driven them home. Rebecca carefully moved Mia to her crib and immediately checked her temperature. Normal. Thank goodness. The antibiotics were working already. She stood there for a moment watching her daughter sleep and felt the weight of last night finally hit her. She'd gotten into a stranger's car. With her baby. What had she been thinking? But then again, what choice did she have? She was exhausted, desperate, and genuinely mistaken, and somehow, incredibly, she'd gotten lucky. That man could have been anyone, but instead he'd been someone kind. Someone who helped. Rebecca made herself coffee and sat down with her phone. She pulled up the rideshare app and checked her history. Sure enough, her actual driver had arrived last night, waited for 8 minutes, then canceled the ride. She'd been charged a cancellation fee. Great, just what her bank account needed. She scrolled through social media while drinking her coffee, not really paying attention, just trying to wake up. Then something caught her eye. A sponsored post from a local news station. Billionaire CEO announces major charity initiative. She almost scrolled past it, but the photo made her freeze. It was him. The man from last night, right there on her phone screen, wearing the same expensive suit, shaking hands with the mayor at some event. The caption read, "Tech mogul David Chen pledges $10 million to local children's hospitals." Rebecca's coffee cup slipped from her hand, splashing lukewarm liquid across her lap. She barely noticed. David Chen. The David Chen. Owner of Chen Technologies, one of the biggest tech companies in the state. She'd read about him before, seen his name in headlines about business deals and charity work, and last night, she'd accidentally climbed into his car and forced him to drive her home. Her face burned with embarrassment. A billionaire. She'd inconvenienced a literal billionaire, made him late for whatever important thing he had scheduled, and he'd just helped her. Without complaint, without even telling her who he was. Rebecca spent the next hour down an internet rabbit hole, reading everything she could find about David Chen, 52 years old. Founded his company 23 years ago. Known for being private, rarely giving interviews. His wife had died a few years back from cancer. He had a daughter, age 13. There were photos of him at charity events, always looking professional and slightly uncomfortable with the attention. She found one interview from last year where he talked about his philosophy on success. "Money means nothing if you're not using it to make someone's life better," he'd said. "I try to remember where I came from back when I had nothing." Rebecca closed her phone and stared at the wall. This man had everything. Could have been anywhere last night, and he'd chosen to help a struggling single mom and her sick baby. No cameras, no publicity, no fanfare. Just quiet kindness. That afternoon, while Mia was napping, Rebecca heard a knock at the door. She looked through the peephole and saw a delivery person holding a large basket. She opened the door cautiously. "Delivery for Rebecca Martinez?" "That's me, but I didn't order anything." The delivery person smiled and handed her the basket. "Someone sent it to you. Have a good day." Rebecca carried the basket inside, her heart pounding. It was beautiful, wrapped in cellophane with a big bow. Inside were children's fever reducers, a digital thermometer, some soft toys, a cozy blanket, and several children's books. There was a card on top written on thick, expensive paper. "For Mia's recovery. Wishing you both health and rest. David Chen." Rebecca sat down heavily on her couch, the basket in her lap. He'd sent them a gift. He'd remembered her daughter's name. She felt tears starting again, but these were different from last night's exhausted, overwhelmed tears. These were tears of gratitude, of being seen and cared for by someone who had no reason to care. There was something else in the envelope with the card. A business card with David Chen's name and company logo. On the back, written in pen, was a phone number and a simple note. "My personal line in case you ever need anything." Rebecca held the card for a long time. Should she call, text, thank him properly? Or would that be weird? Maybe he helped people all the time and this was just normal for him. Maybe she was overthinking it. She decided to send a text. Short and simple. "Thank you so much for the basket and for your kindness last night. Mia is feeling much better today. I'm so sorry again for the confusion. Rebecca." She hit send before she could second-guess herself. Then she set the phone down and started unpacking the basket, showing each item to Mia, who'd just woken up. "Look, sweetie, someone sent you presents. Isn't that nice?" Her phone buzzed 5 minutes later. Rebecca's stomach did a little flip as she picked it up. "Very glad to hear Mia is improving. No need to apologize. I was wondering if you might have time for coffee later this week. There's something I'd like to discuss with you. No pressure if you're too busy. David." Rebecca read the message 3 times. Coffee? With a billionaire CEO? What could he possibly want to discuss with her? She was a part-time bookkeeper who could barely make rent. They had nothing in common except one bizarre encounter in a parking lot, but curiosity won out. "I could do Saturday morning if that works for you. There's a cafe near the park if you know it." His response came quickly. "Perfect. 10 o'clock? See you then." The rest of the week dragged by slowly. Mia got better each day, back to her cheerful, energetic self. Rebecca went to her bookkeeping job at a small law firm, picked up Mia from the neighbor who watched her, made dinner, did bedtime routines. Normal life. But in the back of her mind, she kept thinking about Saturday. She told herself not to get excited. He probably just wanted to make sure she wasn't going to sue him or something. Or maybe he wanted to give her some pamphlet about car safety and stranger danger. Or maybe he felt bad about how rough her apartment building looked and wanted to offer her charity. which would be mortifying. Saturday morning arrived with clear skies and cool weather. Rebecca changed outfits 4 times before settling on jeans and a simple sweater. Not too formal, not too casual. She dropped Mia off with her neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, who was always happy to babysit for a few hours. "Hot date?" Mrs. Patterson asked with a wink. "Just coffee with a friend," Rebecca said, which was technically true, even if calling David Chen a friend seemed absurd. The cafe was busy when she arrived, but she spotted him immediately. He was sitting at a corner table and he'd clearly tried to dress down, wearing jeans and a regular sweater instead of a suit. But somehow he still looked expensive. Maybe it was the way he carried himself, or maybe it was just knowing who he was. He stood up when he saw her, smiling warmly. "Rebecca, thank you for meeting me." "Thank you for the invitation," she said, sitting down across from him. "And thank you again for the basket." Mia loved the toys. A waitress came over and they ordered regular coffee for him, vanilla latte for her. When they were alone again, an awkward silence settled over the table. Rebecca fiddled with her napkin, not sure what to say. David cleared his throat. "I suppose you're wondering why I asked you here." "The thought had crossed my mind," Rebecca admitted. He smiled at that, looking a bit more relaxed. "I want to explain why I helped you that night. Why I didn't just tell you to get out of my car and wait for your real ride." Rebecca nodded, listening. 20 years ago, David began. "I was in a similar situation. Not exactly the same, but close enough. My wife and I had just had our daughter, and there were complications. The hospital bills were enormous. My business was failing at the time. I'd invested everything into it, and it was crashing. We had no money, no insurance, nothing." He paused, looking down at his hands. "We were standing outside that same hospital, actually. The one where I picked you up. I was trying to figure out how to get my wife and newborn baby home because we couldn't afford a cab. A man saw us there. He didn't know us. We'd never met, but he saw us struggling and he just walked up and handed me $200. Told me to take care of my family." Rebecca felt a lump forming in her throat. "I tried to refuse," David continued, "but he insisted. Said someone had helped him once when he needed it, and he was paying it forward. He made me promise that if I ever got back on my feet, I'd do the same for someone else." The waitress brought their coffee. David thanked her and took a sip before continuing. "My business eventually succeeded, obviously, and I've tried to honor that promise. I donate to charities, I help when I can. But it's different when it's organized giving, you know? When you see someone's face, when you feel their desperation like I did that night. It's more real. So when I jumped into your car," Rebecca said slowly, "when you got into my car with your sick daughter, exhausted and desperate, I saw myself 20 years ago. I saw my wife, and I heard that stranger's voice telling me to pay it forward." Rebecca wiped at her eyes. "I didn't know. I'm so sorry about your wife. Thank you. She passed 3 years ago, cancer. But she would have loved that I helped you. She was always the kind one, always seeing people who needed support." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, sipping their coffee. Rebecca felt like she understood him better now. He wasn't just some distant billionaire. He was a person who'd struggled, who'd loved and lost, who remembered what it felt like to need help. "There's another reason I wanted to meet with you," David said, his tone becoming more serious. "I looked into your situation a bit. I hope that's not too intrusive." Rebecca tensed slightly. "What do you mean?" "I have resources, Rebecca. And I noticed that you're working part-time as a bookkeeper, but you have a degree in social work. You gave that up when Mia was born because you couldn't afford childcare, and a full-time job didn't pay enough to cover it." Rebecca's cheeks burned. "How did you— I'm sorry. I know it's invasive, but I want to offer you something, and I wanted to make sure it was appropriate first." He pulled out a folder from the bag beside his chair. "My company is expanding our employee wellness program. We need someone to coordinate family resources, help working parents navigate childcare, medical leave, that sort of thing. It's a full-time position with benefits, including on-site childcare." Rebecca stared at the folder he'd placed in front of her. "You're offering me a job?" "I'm offering you an opportunity, one that uses your actual skills and education, and one that would give Mia a stable environment. The salary is competitive, and honestly, we need someone with your perspective. Someone who understands what working parents actually need." Rebecca opened the folder with shaking hands. The salary listed made her dizzy. It was more than double what she made now. There were benefit details, a job description, Information about the child care center. I don't understand, she said quietly. Why would you do this? David leaned forward. Because you deserve it. Because that stranger who helped me 20 years ago changed my life. And I want to change yours. Because I think you'd be genuinely good at this job. And my employees would benefit from having you. And because sometimes the wrong car is actually the right one. Rebecca laughed through her tears. This is insane, I know. But is it a good kind of insane? She looked at the folder again, at the numbers and benefits that seemed too good to be true. Then she looked at David, at his kind eyes and genuine smile. This was real. This was happening. When would I start? She asked. Rebecca's first day at Chen Technologies felt like stepping into a different world. The building was all glass and steel, modern and sleek, with indoor plants everywhere and natural light flooding through massive windows. People walked past wearing everything from suits to jeans and hoodies, carrying laptops and coffee cups, looking purposeful and busy. She'd spent the last 2 weeks in a whirlwind of paperwork, orientation videos, and getting Mia registered for the child care center. Mrs. Patterson had been thrilled for her, even a little teary when Rebecca told her about the job offer. You deserve something good, the old woman had said, hugging her tight. You and that baby deserve the world. Now, standing in the lobby with Mia on her hip and a diaper bag over her shoulder, Rebecca felt overwhelmed. The security guard had checked her in, given her a temporary badge, and directed her to the 3rd floor. But she was 10 minutes early and feeling nervous. Big building, huh? A young woman said, walking up beside her. She had bright blue hair and a friendly smile. First day? Is it that obvious? Rebecca asked. You have the look. Don't worry, it's a good place to work. I'm Nina, by the way. Software developer. Rebecca, I'm the new family resources coordinator. Oh, perfect. We needed someone for that. Welcome aboard. Nina waved and headed toward the elevators. Rebecca took a deep breath and followed. The child care center was on the 2nd floor, and when the elevator doors opened, she heard the happy sounds of children playing. The space was incredible, nothing like the cramped, dingy daycare she'd been using before. There were different areas for different age groups, tons of toys and books, and large windows overlooking a small indoor garden. A kind-looking woman in her 50s approached them. You must be Rebecca and Mia. I'm Carol, the childcare director. We've been expecting you. Mia clung to Rebecca at first, shy around the new person and new place. But Carol was patient, showing them around, introducing them to the other caregivers, and pointing out where Mia's cubby would be. There were only 8 other children in Mia's age group, and the room was bright and clean and safe. We'll take good care of her, Carol promised. And you can come visit during lunch if you want. Lots of parents do. Leaving Mia was hard, even knowing she was in good hands. Rebecca kept looking back as she walked to the elevator, seeing Mia already getting distracted by a toy another child was playing with. She'd be okay. They'd both be okay. The 3rd floor was where the Human Resources Department was located, along with several other administrative offices. Rebecca found her way to a conference room, where a small group of people were already gathered for new employee orientation. There were 5 of them total, all starting different positions. They went around introducing themselves, and Rebecca felt a little less nervous hearing that everyone else was just as new and uncertain as she was. After orientation, her supervisor Lauren showed her to her office. Her office. Rebecca had never had an office before. It was small but had a window, a real desk, a comfortable chair, and a computer already set up with her name on a placard. Take some time to settle in, Lauren said. I'll be back in an hour to go over your projects and responsibilities. If you need anything, I'm just down the hall. Rebecca sat in her chair and spun around once, feeling like a kid. She had an office. She had a real job with benefits and a salary and business cards being printed with her name on them. She pulled out her phone and took a picture of her desk, sending it to Mrs. Patterson with a heart emoji. The response came immediately. So proud of you, dear. The morning flew by in a blur of information. Lauren was organized and thorough, walking Rebecca through the employee wellness program, the resources available, and what her role would entail. She'd be helping coordinate parental leave, working with the child care center, organizing support groups for working parents, and generally being a resource for anyone trying to balance work and family life. You'll also work with David occasionally, Lauren mentioned casually. He's very hands-on with the wellness initiatives. He'll probably want to meet with you in the next few weeks to discuss ideas." Rebecca nodded, not mentioning that she'd already met David in the most unusual way possible. She wondered if people here knew about what had happened. But Lauren didn't say anything, so maybe David had kept it private. At lunch, Rebecca went down to check on Mia. Her daughter was happy, playing with blocks alongside another little girl. When she saw Rebecca, she ran over for a hug, but then immediately wanted to go back to playing. It made leaving easier, knowing Mia was actually enjoying herself. The cafeteria on the 4th floor was another surprise. It wasn't just vending machines and sad sandwiches. There were actual food stations with fresh, healthy options, and everything was subsidized for employees. Rebecca got a salad and a sandwich for less than she'd normally pay for fast food. She found a table by the window and was about to start eating when someone sat down across from her. She looked up, expecting Nina or maybe someone else from orientation. Instead, it was David. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, though he was already sitting. "Of course not." "It's your company," Rebecca said, then immediately felt stupid. "Sorry, that sounded weird," David laughed. "It's okay. How's your first day going?" "Honestly, it's amazing. Everyone's been so nice, and the child care center is incredible, and I have an office, and—" She stopped herself. "Sorry, I'm rambling. Don't apologize. I'm glad you're happy. And Mia, she's settling in, okay?" "She's doing great. Better than I expected, actually." They ate in comfortable silence for a moment. Other employees walked past, some nodding at David, others stopping to say quick hellos. He was friendly but brief with them, clearly trying to have a normal lunch break. "I wanted to thank you again," Rebecca said. "I know I've said it before, but this opportunity, it's life-changing. For both of us." David set down his fork and looked at her seriously. "Rebecca, I need you to understand something. This isn't charity. I didn't create this position just to give you a job. We genuinely needed someone with your skills and experience. You earned this. But if I hadn't accidentally gotten in your car, then I might have posted the job listing and you might have applied, and I still would have hired you because you're qualified. The way we met was unusual, yes, but your qualifications are what matter." Rebecca wanted to believe him, and looking at his sincere expression, maybe she could start too. "There is one thing I should mention," David said, his tone becoming lighter. "My daughter Lily wants to meet you and Mia." Rebecca blinked. "She does?" I told her about what happened. "Not everything, just that I helped someone who needed it and that you're working here now. She's 13 and very curious about everything. She's been pestering me all week about inviting you to dinner. Oh, I don't want to intrude on your family time." "You wouldn't be intruding. I'm asking, would you and Mia want to come over for dinner this Saturday? Nothing fancy, just pizza and a chance for Lily to interrogate you about everything." He smiled when he said it. Rebecca hesitated. Having coffee with David at a cafe was one thing. Going to his house for dinner felt like crossing some invisible line. But he looked hopeful, and the idea of Mia having another child to play with was appealing. "Okay," she said. "Saturday works. Perfect. I'll text you the address." The rest of the week went smoothly. Rebecca fell into a routine, dropping Mia off at childcare, working on organizing resources and setting up support programs, picking Mia up, going home. It felt surreal having a schedule that actually worked, not scrambling to make ends meet, not worrying constantly about money. On Wednesday, she got her first paycheck. Well, a portion of it since she hadn't worked a full pay period yet, but even that partial amount was more than she usually made in 2 weeks at her old job. Rebecca sat in her car in the parking lot, staring at the direct deposit notification on her phone, and cried happy tears. She paid off a credit card that day. Just completely paid it off. Then she went grocery shopping and bought actual fresh vegetables and good quality food, instead of just whatever was cheapest. She bought Mia new shoes because the old ones were getting tight. Small things, normal things, but they felt like luxuries. By Saturday, she was actually excited about dinner at David's house. She'd bought a bottle of wine, even though she had no idea if that was appropriate or too formal. Mia was in a good mood, babbling happily in her car seat as they drove to the address David had texted. The house was in a nice neighborhood, but it wasn't the massive mansion Rebecca had been picturing. It was large, yes, but not ostentatiously so. A 2-story house with a neat lawn and a wooden front door with a wreath on it. Very normal, very welcoming. Before Rebecca could even knock, the door flew open. A teenage girl with dark hair and a ponytail and an enormous smile stood there. "You're Rebecca, and this must be Mia." "Hi, I'm Lily." Come in, come in." The girl's enthusiasm was infectious. Rebecca found herself smiling as they stepped inside. The house was beautiful but lived in, with family photos on the walls and a pile of shoes by the door and a backpack dumped in the hallway. David appeared from what looked like the kitchen, wearing jeans and a t-shirt that said "World's Okayest Dad." He looked more relaxed than Rebecca had ever seen him. "I see you've met my daughter, the human hurricane," he said affectionately. "Dad, stop. I'm being welcoming." Lily was already crouching down to Mia's level. "Hi, sweetie. Do you want to see my old toys? I saved all of them in a box upstairs." Mia looked at Rebecca uncertainly and Rebecca nodded. "It's okay, honey. You can go play." Lily gently took Mia's hand and led her toward the stairs, chattering the whole time about all the toys she had. David watched them go with a soft expression on his face. "She's been looking forward to this all week," he said. "She doesn't get many chances to play with younger kids. Mia loves older kids. She'll be thrilled." Rebecca handed him the wine bottle. "I brought this, but I wasn't sure if—" "It's perfect. Thank you. Come on, I'll give you the tour." The house was lovely. Not overly fancy, but comfortable and clearly a home where people actually lived. There were books everywhere, artwork that looked like Lily had made it over the years, photos of David and his late wife and Lily at various ages. Rebecca noticed that David kept the pictures up, not hiding his wife's memory but celebrating it. In the kitchen, there was pizza dough rising on the counter. "I thought we'd make them together," David explained. "Lily loves doing it, and I figured Mia might enjoy it too. She'll love that." They heard giggles from upstairs, both Lily and Mia laughing about something. The sound made Rebecca's heart feel full. "This is really nice of you," Rebecca said. "Inviting us into your home like this." David started pulling out toppings from the refrigerator. "To be honest, it's nice for us too. This house has been quiet since my wife died. Having people over, hearing kids laughing, it's good. It's healing." Rebecca helped him set up the pizza-making station, and soon Lily came down with Mia, both of them giggling. The next hour was chaotic and fun, with flour everywhere and Mia more interested in eating the cheese than putting it on the pizza, and Lily being a patient, sweet older sister figure. As they finally sat down to eat their slightly misshapen but delicious homemade pizzas, Rebecca looked around the table. David was helping Mia with her slice, cutting it into tiny pieces. Lily was telling an animated story about something that happened at school. Mia was laughing and making a mess. It felt like family, like belonging. Rebecca realized that getting into the wrong car that night had led her here. To this moment. To this new life. And maybe, just maybe, it had been the right car all along. 3 months into her new job, Rebecca barely recognized her own life. She had savings in her bank account. Actual savings. Mia was thriving in the child care center, hitting all her developmental milestones and making little friends. Rebecca's apartment didn't feel quite as shabby anymore, because she'd been able to buy some new furniture and proper curtains. Small changes, but they meant everything. Work was challenging in the best way. She'd organized 3 successful workshops for new parents, set up a support group for single parents at the company, and was working on a comprehensive guide for employees navigating maternity and paternity leave. Lauren kept praising her initiative, and other employees had started stopping by her office to chat about their struggles balancing work and family. What surprised Rebecca most was how much she'd started to enjoy the friendship that had developed with David. After that first dinner, it had become a regular thing. Every couple of weeks they'd have pizza night at his house, or he'd bring Lily to the park where Rebecca took Mia on weekends. It was easy and comfortable, 2 single parents navigating life and finding support in each other. Lily had become especially attached to Mia, treating her like a little sister. The teenage girl would come to the childcare center after school sometimes, volunteering to help out just so she could play with the younger kids, especially Mia. Rebecca was grateful for it. Mia had never had a father figure or older siblings, and Lily's attention meant the world to her. But Rebecca was also confused about what was happening. Were she and David becoming friends? Were they already friends? Sometimes she caught him looking at her in a way that made her heart skip, and sometimes when their hands accidentally touched while reaching for the same thing, she felt a spark that seemed like more than friendship. But she always pushed those thoughts away. He was her boss, technically. He was a billionaire. He was still grieving his wife. And she was just her, a single mom who'd stumbled into his life by accident. One Friday afternoon, David stopped by her office. This wasn't unusual. He made a point of checking in with all his department heads regularly, but something about his expression seemed different today. "Do you have a minute?" he asked, closing the door behind him. "Of course. Is everything okay?" He sat down in the chair across from her desk, looking uncharacteristically nervous. "Everything's fine. I actually wanted to talk to you about something personal, if that's okay." Rebecca's stomach did a little flip. "Sure. Next week is the anniversary of my wife's death. 3 years. It's always a hard day for both Lily and me." He paused, collecting his thoughts. "Usually we spend it quietly at home, just the two of us. But this year, Lily asked if you and Mia could be there. She said having you around makes her feel less sad." Rebecca felt tears prick her eyes. "David, of course. We'd be honored. What can we do to help? Just being there would be enough. We usually look through old photos, tell stories about her mom, that kind of thing. It's important that Lily remembers her, that we keep that connection alive." "I think that's beautiful," Rebecca said softly. "You're doing an amazing job with her. Anyone can see how much she loves you and how much she loved her mom." David's eyes were bright with unshed tears. "Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. You're a wonderful mother to Mia. I see it every day." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, and Rebecca realized how much their relationship had shifted. They weren't just employer and employee anymore. They weren't just two people who'd met by chance. They'd become important to each other, woven into each other's lives in unexpected ways. "Can I tell you something?" David asked suddenly. "Of course. That night when you got into my car, I was driving around aimlessly because I'd just come from the cemetery. It was a bad day and I was feeling lost. I'd gone to visit my wife's grave and I didn't want to go home to an empty house. Lily was at a friend's house and I was just driving, trying to figure out how to keep going." Rebecca's heart ached for him. "I'm so sorry. Don't be. Because then you opened my car door and suddenly I had a purpose. Someone needed help and I could provide it. You and Mia gave me a reason to focus on something other than my grief that night. In a way, you helped me as much as I helped you." Rebecca didn't know what to say to that. She reached across the desk and squeezed his hand. He squeezed back, holding on for just a moment longer than necessary. "I'll be there next week," she promised. "We both will." The following Thursday evening, Rebecca drove to David's house with a container of homemade cookies and Mia babbling happily in the back seat. She'd thought a lot about this visit, about what it meant to be invited into such an intimate, personal moment of grief. She'd dressed Mia in a pretty purple dress and she'd worn something simple and respectful herself. Lily answered the door, and Rebecca could see she'd been crying. The girl immediately hugged her, holding on tight. "Thank you for coming," Lily whispered. "Of course, sweetie. We're here for you." David was in the living room and the coffee table was covered with photo albums. He looked tired but managed to smile when he saw them. Mia toddled over to him immediately and he picked her up, letting her poke at his face the way she always did. The simple gesture of holding the baby seemed to comfort him. They ordered Chinese food for dinner, nobody feeling up to cooking. Lily picked at her food quieter than usual, and Rebecca's heart broke for her. Losing a mother so young, and having to face these anniversaries year after year. After dinner, they settled in the living room with the photo albums. David and Lily took turns telling stories about Elena, David's late wife. She'd been a teacher, passionate about education and kids. She'd loved to garden. She'd been terrible at cooking, but made the best chocolate chip cookies from a very specific recipe. She'd had a loud, infectious laugh. "She would have loved you," Lily said suddenly, looking at Rebecca. "Mom always said Dad needed more friends. She'd be happy he has you." Rebecca felt her throat tighten. "I wish I could have met her." Me too," David said quietly. "She was the best person I knew." Mia, oblivious to the emotional weight of the evening, was playing with some toys on the floor. She picked up a stuffed bunny and brought it over to Lily, offering it to her with a sweet smile. Lily took it and pulled Mia into a hug, and that's when she really started crying. Not quiet tears, but real sobs. David moved to comfort his daughter, but Lily surprised them both by turning to Rebecca instead, burying her face in her shoulder. Rebecca held her, stroking her hair, letting her cry. Over Lily's head, Rebecca's eyes met David's, and she saw such raw grief and gratitude there that she almost started crying herself. "It's not fair," Lily said through her tears. "She should be here. She should have gotten to see me grow up. It's not fair that she's gone." "I know, honey," Rebecca said softly. "You're right. It's not fair at all." "I'm so tired of being sad," Lily whispered. "You won't always feel this sad," Rebecca promised. "I know it doesn't feel like it now, but the grief will get easier to carry, and it's okay to be happy again. Your mom would want you to be happy." David had moved closer, his hand on his daughter's back. Together, they comforted her until the sobs quieted into hiccups and then into calm breathing. Mia, sensing something was wrong, climbed up onto the couch and patted Lily's arm with her little hand. "Sad?" Mia asked, her vocabulary still limited but her empathy clear. Lily laughed through her tears. "Yeah, sweetie, I'm sad. But you're making it better." They spent the rest of the evening looking through more photos, but the mood had shifted slightly. The grief was still there, but so was love and warmth and the comfort of not being alone. Rebecca shared stories about losing her own mother when she was in college, about how grief changes but never completely goes away, about learning to hold both sadness and joy at the same time. When it was time to leave, Lily hugged Rebecca again. "Thank you for being here. It helped. It really helped." "Anytime, Lily. I mean that." David walked them to the car, carrying a sleeping Mia. He buckled her into the car seat with practiced ease, then turned to Rebecca. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. "You don't need to thank me. That's what friends do." "Friends," he repeated, and something flickered across his face. "Rebecca, can I ask you something?" "Sure." He seemed to struggle with the words. "Do you ever think about what might have happened if you hadn't gotten into my car that night? If you'd gotten into the right car instead?" Rebecca thought about it. "Sometimes. But honestly, I think everything happened the way it was supposed to. I don't believe in accidents anymore. I think I was meant to meet you." David stepped closer. They were standing in his driveway under the stars, and Rebecca's heart was pounding. She wondered if he could hear it. "I think so too," he said softly. "Rebecca, I need to tell you something. Over these past few months, you've become one of the most important people in my life. You and Mia both. I look forward to our dinners. I find myself thinking about things I want to tell you. Lily talks about you constantly. And He trailed off, and Rebecca held her breath. "I know the timing might not be right. I know I'm still dealing with grief, and you're my employee. And there are 100 reasons why this is complicated, but I can't stop feeling like maybe we're moving towards something more than friendship. And I needed to know if I'm completely imagining that." Rebecca's mind was racing. She'd been pushing these feelings down for months, telling herself they were inappropriate, that she was misreading the situation, that a man like David would never actually be interested in someone like her beyond friendship. "You're not imagining it," she said quietly. "I've been feeling it too. But I didn't want to presume, and I didn't want to make things weird, and—" "Hey," David said, reaching out to touch her arm gently. "We don't have to figure everything out right now. I just needed you to know how I feel. We can take things slow. We can see where this goes naturally. No pressure." Rebecca smiled. "Slow sounds good." "Good." He smiled back, and it was genuine and warm and made her heart flutter. "So maybe next Friday, instead of pizza with the kids, it could just be us, dinner, just the two of us, like a date?" "Yeah, like a date." Rebecca felt giddy, like a teenager with a crush. "I'd like that." As she drove home, checking on sleeping Mia in the rearview mirror, Rebecca thought about how strange life was, how one wrong car, one moment of exhaustion and confusion, had led to all of this. A new job, a new home, new friends, and now, maybe, the possibility of something even more. She'd been so focused on just surviving for so long, working multiple jobs, scraping by, doing everything alone. She'd forgotten what it felt like to have someone care about her, to have help, to have hope for the future. Getting into David's car that night had been a mistake, but it was also the best mistake she'd ever made. And now, driving through the quiet streets with her daughter sleeping peacefully behind her, Rebecca couldn't wait to see where this new path would lead. 6 months had passed since Rebecca's first day at Chen Technologies, and she was sitting in her office reviewing the quarterly wellness program report when her phone buzzed. It was a text from David. "Lily has a dance recital tonight. She wants you and Mia there. Please say yes?" Rebecca smiled. These small moments had become the highlights of her weeks. "Wouldn't miss it." "What time?" The reply came instantly. 7 p.m. I'll save you seats." Their relationship had evolved slowly, just as they'd agreed. That first dinner date had been wonderful but careful, both of them navigating the waters of something new while being mindful of their complicated situation. They'd gone out a few more times, always making sure it didn't interfere with work or confuse the kids. David had been right to suggest taking things slow. They both had responsibilities, and rushing into anything would only create problems. But even moving slowly, Rebecca could feel herself falling for him. It wasn't just his kindness or his success. It was the way he remembered that Mia didn't like strawberries, the way he asked about Rebecca's day and actually listened to the answer, the way he talked about his late wife with love, but without the crushing grief that had been there months ago. He was healing, and somehow Rebecca was part of that healing process just as he'd been part of hers. At 6:30, Rebecca picked up Mia from the child care center and rushed home to change. She put Mia in an adorable yellow dress and changed into something nice herself. They arrived at the school auditorium with 10 minutes to spare, and David was waiting in the lobby, looking handsome in slacks and a button-down shirt. "You made it," he said, his whole face lighting up. He bent down to say hi to Mia, who immediately wanted him to pick her up. He obliged, settling her on his hip like it was the most natural thing in the world. They found their seats near the front. David had saved 3 spots, and they'd barely sat down when the lights dimmed and the recital began. Lily's jazz class was performing fourth, and when she came on stage in her costume, Rebecca heard David's breath catch. "She looks so grown up," he whispered. He was right. Lily, in her dance costume with her hair done up, looked more like a young woman than the 13-year-old girl who still loved to play with Mia's baby toys. Rebecca reached over and squeezed David's hand. He squeezed back and didn't let go. Lily's performance was beautiful. She moved with confidence and grace, clearly having inherited some of her mother's artistic talent. When it was over, David was on his feet applauding, and Rebecca was right, there with him, Mia clapping her little hands because everyone else was. After the recital, they met Lily in the lobby. She was flushed and happy, still in her costume, and she ran straight to her dad. "Did you see? Did I do okay?" "You were perfect," David said, hugging her tight. "Your mom would have been so proud." Lily pulled back, her eyes shining. "You really think so?" "I know so." Then Lily turned to Rebecca and hugged her too. "Thanks for coming. It means a lot." "You were amazing, Lily. A natural performer." They went out for ice cream afterward. The 4 of them crowded into a booth at a local shop, Mia getting more ice cream on her face than in her mouth, Lily still buzzing with post-performance energy. Rebecca watched them, this makeshift family they'd become, and felt a contentment she hadn't known was possible. Later, after they'd dropped Lily at a friend's house for a sleepover and Mia had fallen asleep in the car, David drove to Rebecca's apartment. He helped her carry Mia upstairs and get her into bed. It had become routine, him helping with these things, and Rebecca had stopped feeling awkward about it. They stood in her small living room, and the air felt charged with something unspoken. They'd been dating for months now, but they'd been careful, keeping things appropriate, not rushing into anything physical beyond hand-holding and brief kisses goodbye. But tonight felt different. "Can we talk?" David asked. Rebecca's heart started pounding. Those 3 words could mean anything. "Of course. Sit down. Do you want coffee or—" "No, I'm good. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture Rebecca had learned meant he was nervous. "I've been thinking about us. About where we are and where we might be going." Rebecca sat down on the couch and David sat beside her, close enough that their knees touched. I care about you, Rebecca. I think you know that. And I know we agreed to take things slow, and I've been fine with that. But